When my rudimentary Photoshop skills aren't dazzling people with my annual Christmas card. I like to answer questions I get on YouTube, so let's have at it. Do you listen to Coldplay? All right, it's time to be real here. I absolutely listen to Coldplay. I have listened to a lot of Coldplay in my time. Probably gonna catch some heat for it, but I love Coldplay, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And specifically, I love those first two albums. In fact, those first two albums are classics in my book. I think they sound great. The production is great. The arrangement is fantastic. I've seen Coldplay live before. They are a killer live band. I don't necessarily care for anything as a whole after their first two albums. I think those two kind of stand frozen in time as pop masterpieces to me. I appreciate that they've kind of evolved with the times. I think they've definitely had some moments, some awesome songs kind of throughout there. But to me, Parachutes and Rush for Blood to the Head are awesome albums. And you know what? I don't care what you say about me. Troll away all you want. I think early Coldplay especially is awesome, and that's all I have to say on the matter. As a musician who writes lyrics, do you think that reading books is something that helps with improving your songwriting skills? Have you ever found yourself benefiting in songwriting from reading books if you read books? Now this is a fantastic question, and I think there's a lot of value to reading books. I do read books. I find that nowadays I read probably less than I used to. I only really read nonfiction for whatever reason. I haven't read like a fiction book in a long time. I just feel like the nonfiction stuff has grabbed at more. I'm currently reading the new Chuck Klosterman book, What If We're Wrong? Really cool writer. But yeah, I think it absolutely helps with songwriting. I think songwriting, specifically for me, the hardest part, hands down, in writing a song is coming up with lyrics that I don't think are lame. For my own lyrics to pass my own inner lame test is like a very, very difficult thing for me to do. Sometimes it comes really quickly. Other times I labor over lyrics just to kind of get them usable. And it's always something different. And usually it always comes from like a different place. But I think more than anything, and we're like kind of like reading and like taking in like other forms of art or creativity kind of helps a lot, is just kind of life experience. Like just living life and like doing experiences will really help. I found it helps in songwriting. I think when I first started writing songs, probably around like my early 20s and stuff like that, everything I wrote was kind of about just like girls that I was trying to like hook up with or had a crush on or whatever. And it was kind of painful to like, and it's very painful nowadays to kind of go back and like listen to maybe some of the stuff or the lyrics or whatever. I feel like when I noticed my own songwriting improving was when I could write about things that weren't personally about me, but I still kind of like imprinted personal experiences onto other things. So I think this album that I have coming out is a good example of how I've been able to evolve as a songwriter, kind of like writing about something else, but still being able to kind of like include things that have happened to me into it in like a metaphorical sense or whatever. But yeah, I'm not saying it's like the greatest thing in the world, but to me, what makes a good songwriting is something that can be taken specifically or can be taken broadly, ambiguously. And I think just like immersing yourself in great writers' writings and prose and kind of like how they handle stuff is only a really good thing. So, you know, if you have ambitions to write songs, I definitely think paying attention to other songwriters' lyrics is a great thing to do. Reading is a fantastic thing to do. I think it just keeps you sharp too. There's a lot of great benefits from reading, as you can learn in any after-school special. So definitely keep the reading up, keep the acquisition of knowledge strong. Is doubling up on fuzz, distortion, overdrive a thing? Would it make sense to have an overdrive and a distortion pedal on while playing to offer a unique noise, or is that a no-no? Absolutely, man. Do what you want. Experimentation is all about kind of finding your sound. Like there are tons of different pedals out there, and there are kind of like a few standbys as far as like the distortions and the amps that are very widely used. So to kind of actually go about finding a tone or a sound that is unique can be kind of like a difficult thing to do. So one way to do that is kind of chaining different distortions or different pedals together in a way that may be unorthodox. I mean, if you like how it sounds fine. Like there are things that maybe like might not make sense, like maybe putting like a reverb before your fuzz pedal, and you don't even have to like be told why that doesn't make sense. You can just kind of like hear how things like will pan out when you do it that way, and it'll just sound bad, or maybe that's kind of what you're going for. Again, everybody kind of like finding your own sound is such a journey and a process. So don't let anybody tell you that like you're doing it the wrong way. Like you can't like put an overdrive before a compressor and after a fuzz and whatever. I think the ordering of pedals, that there's so many people who will say there's like a right and a wrong way to do it, but just experiment and do whatever you want. I mean, I used to have one of my earliest pedal configurations was having a Boss Blues driver feeding into a Big Muff, and I thought that sounded like just like nasty, and it was like a really cool thing. And that's like an overdrive going into fuzz pedal. I thought that was a cool sound, but really, yeah, find out, maybe like players that you like the sound of, see what pedals they're using, and then just kind of like experiment with whatever you can get your hands on until you find something that works. In your opinion, in order to help me make a better guitarist, should I pick up another instrument? I've never seen a great guitarist only play guitar. So this is something I can speak to from a lot of personal experience. Again, guitar was my very first instrument, and I played guitar kind of exclusively for 2 years. And then I kind of picked up drums and piano at the same time, and it opened up a world of perspective. Absolutely any instrument will give you a different perspective on music, just kind of coming at chords from a different angle, melodies from a different angle. Like especially with me writing, like I write so much differently on a piano than I do on a guitar, just because the approach to melody is so much different as far as like kind of adding something on top of a chord to having a whole hand free to maybe play over a chord or something like that. There's just so much that can be learned from any instrument. I think like drums, you just get such a great sense of like rhythm and timing and just kind of like building different like timings into like your playing and your strumming and stuff like that. Piano is such a great tool for learning kind of in a linear way to see how things stack up, like chord building and stuff like that, and like playing with inversions and then just experimenting with different melodies over chords, stuff like that. Even something like a ukulele, like a smaller like 4-stringed instrument, because like we've talked about with chords and stuff like that, most chords are only 3 different notes, sometimes 4 different notes and beyond. On a guitar, having 6 strings, you don't think that way as much at first maybe, because you just kind of get into like shapes, and even though you're only playing 3 different notes, maybe you're playing all 6 strings. On a ukulele especially, if it's just 4 notes, it's a good way to look at, okay, I've got such a limited amount of notes that I can choose from at once. I have to choose which 4 notes I'm going to use, and if I want to do an extended chord and applying and stuff like that. So absolutely pick up another instrument, whatever you can get your hands on. I know it was really beneficial to me, and the next time you come sit down with a guitar, you might actually see it a different way. So for listening homework this week, I'm going to turn you on to the side project of the Black Keys frontman Dan Auerbach. It's called The Arcs. I think this album specifically that I'm going to link you to, they've actually done a couple of them. I like the first one a lot better than the second one. Top to bottom, fantastic album. This song is called Stay in My Corner. Really great retro kind of groove thing. A side project which I don't think gets nearly enough credit. I love the Black Keys too. I've seen them live. They're fantastic. But I actually prefer the Arc stuff. It just has such a cool retro sound. So check that out. Let me know what you think. And as always, any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section or Twitter or Instagram, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.